It was supposed to be another tense but controlled day in the courtroom. Cameras were rolling, reporters were scribbling, and the air was thick with anticipation. But no one, not even the judge, was prepared for what happened next. As the witness wrapped up a gut-wrenching testimony against Sean Diddy Combs, a ripple of murmurs spread across the room. Then, without warning, Diddy's own son, eyes blazing, fists clenched, burst from his seat like a loaded spring. Gasps filled the room as he charged toward the witness stand, fists swinging and yelling something too chaotic to decipher. It wasn't a scuffle, it was an ambush. Court officers scrambled into action, but the damage had already been done. Papers flew, a table toppled, and the witness stumbled back in sheer panic. The judge slammed the gavel repeatedly, demanding order, but the courtroom had already descended into bedlam. What was meant to be a testimony of truth turned into a full-blown scene of violence, one that would dominate headlines for days. But this wasn't just an emotional outburst. It was a warning shot, and a glimpse into just how desperate some people might be to keep secrets buried. So what exactly did the witness say that made Diddy's son snap? It wasn't just another courtroom statement. This testimony was explosive, one that painted a disturbing picture of what allegedly goes on behind the closed doors of Diddy's empire. The witness, a former associate once close to the inner circle, didn't hold back. He spoke about secret gatherings, power plays, and a culture of fear where loyalty wasn't earned. It was demanded. According to him, those who tried to walk away were silenced, and those who stayed were forced into things no one should ever have to endure. What shook the room was when the witness mentioned a private list, a rumored document said to include names of celebrities, insiders, and enforcers, all connected to Diddy's operations. He even hinted at recordings, tapes, physical proof. The courtroom went from silent to stunned. Jurors exchanged nervous glances. Reporters typed frantically. And Diddy's son? His face turned from tense to enraged. It wasn't just the details that sparked the outburst. It was the idea that this man, this witness, knew too much. And worse, that he was willing to say it all, publicly. The tension didn't just build, it erupted. As the witness uttered the final line of his testimony, something in Diddy's son broke. Witnesses say his breathing became erratic, his leg jittered uncontrollably, and his hands were clenched so tightly they turned pale. Then, in a flash, he stood up, chair scraping loudly across the floor, and charged forward like a man possessed. Shouts rang out. Some thought he was just going to yell. But no, this wasn't verbal, it was violent. He lunged at the witness stand with a force that sent the courtroom into shock. He managed to shove one of the officers trying to hold him back, then took a swing, one that connected hard enough to knock the witness's glasses off his face. The blow was fast, furious, and laced with rage that had clearly been boiling under the surface for far too long. Security finally tackled him to the floor, pinning him down as the courtroom erupted into panic. People stood. The judge called for an emergency recess. The jury was rushed out. And in that moment, the story stopped being about Diddy's alleged crimes and started being about his son's inability to handle the truth. What followed was total pandemonium. Within seconds of the attack, the courtroom transformed from a place of order into something resembling a war zone. The judge was shouting, pounding the gavel with no effect. Attorneys scrambled to shield their clients. Security rushed in from every corner. Journalists were frozen, unsure whether to keep filming or duck for cover. The witness, still shaken and now injured, was rushed out of the room with security surrounding him. He was visibly shaken, holding his face, his shirt stained with drops of blood. Cameras caught jurors being evacuated while a few gasped in disbelief, one of them whispering, "Did that really just happen?" Meanwhile, Diddy's son was restrained on the ground, still yelling as he was dragged from the courtroom. The courtroom doors slammed behind him, but the damage had already been done. Not just physical, but legal. Emotional, public. In minutes, the story went viral. News alerts hit social media feeds with captions like "Diddy's son attacks witness live in courtroom meltdown" and "Courtroom turns violent as trial spins out of control." But beneath the chaos, one chilling question remained. What truth did that witness reveal? That was worth attacking over. After the courtroom cleared, emergency responders rushed the assaulted witness to a nearby hospital. Paramedics confirmed he had sustained a mild concussion, a split lip, and bruising near his right eye. Nothing life-threatening, but serious enough to require medical attention. Doctors kept him under observation for several hours, not just for physical injuries, but to ensure he was mentally stable enough to continue. And yet, despite the attack, despite the trauma, this man refused to back down. Sources close to the case said he was adamant about continuing his testimony. In fact, according to court insiders, his first words to the hospital staff were, "I'm not done. They need to hear the rest." That kind of courage sent a ripple through the legal teams and the press. It also sent a message. This wasn't someone who could be scared into silence. As images of him leaving the hospital circulated online, head bandaged, lips swollen, eyes determined, the public started to rally behind him. Hashtags like "protect the witness" and "justice for the truth" began trending on social media. What was meant to be an act of intimidation had backfired spectacularly. This witness wasn't just a side character anymore. He had become the face of resistance in a case that now looked more dangerous and more important than anyone had realized. The very next morning, prosecutors came out swinging. Still reeling from the courtroom assault, the prosecution team wasted no time filing a formal motion for sanctions against Diddy's son. In a fiery statement to the court, they accused him of witness intimidation, obstruction of justice, and contempt of court. But behind the legal jargon was something more chilling, a warning that this attack might not have been spontaneous, but strategic. According to the lead prosecutor, this was not a loss of temper. This was an attempt to silence someone who's telling the truth. He went on to claim that the attack was a calculated move to derail the trial and possibly scare off future witnesses. The legal team demanded that the court increase security for all remaining witnesses and even floated the possibility of charging Diddy's son separately, ensuring he faces accountability outside of the main case. There was talk of jail time, restraining orders, courtroom bans, all of it on the table. And the message was crystal clear. This trial was no longer just about Diddy. It had now expanded into something far bigger, a battle over truth, safety, and whether power could still shield someone from consequences. When the courtroom reconvened, all eyes were on the bench. The judge, who had remained calm through days of intense testimony, now looked visibly shaken, but not weak. Her voice was low, deliberate, and razor-sharp as she addressed the room. "Let me be clear," she began. "This courtroom will not be turned into a battleground. Not by defendants, not by family members, not by anyone." She condemned the attack in the strongest terms, calling it a direct threat to the integrity of the justice system. Then she dropped the hammer. From that point forward, extra security would be deployed. Any witness who felt endangered could request private transport and personal protection. And if anyone, from any side, tried to interfere again, they'd be removed permanently from the courtroom. Or worse, held in contempt with criminal penalties. Some insiders said the judge had even considered closing the courtroom to the public entirely, transforming the high-profile trial into a lockdown proceeding. That decision was ultimately postponed, but the tension was undeniable. You could feel it in every breath, every side glance, every pause before someone spoke. And as the gavel came down to resume testimony, one thing was clear. This trial was no longer just about the facts. It had become a high-stakes war for control. And no one, not even Diddy's family, was above the law now. While chaos erupted around him, Diddy sat motionless. No outburst, no reaction, no glance toward his son, the witness, or even the judge. His hands were folded, his eyes locked forward. The courtroom was spinning out of control. And yet Diddy remained as still as a statue. To some, it was composure. To others, it was calculation. Insiders described it as chilling. "He looked like he'd seen it coming," one journalist whispered. Even as the prosecution and defense scrambled, even as his own son was dragged from the courtroom, Diddy didn't say a word. He didn't reach out. He didn't even flinch. When reporters reached out to his legal team for comment, they were met with silence. No statement, no denial, just a cold wall of no comment. But in the court of public opinion, silence is a statement. And in this case, it only fueled speculation. Was Diddy distancing himself from the violence, or was he silently supporting it? Social media went into a frenzy. Some claimed his poker face was a defense strategy. Others accused him of condoning the attack with his inaction. Memes, theories, and edited courtroom clips exploded online, painting Diddy as either a cold tactician or a man whose empire was collapsing around him. Either way, his silence didn't protect him. It made him the center of attention, all over again. It didn't take long for the internet to catch fire. Within minutes of the courtroom meltdown, hashtags like Dear Diddy Trial, Pax Witness Assault, and Cancel Diddy shot to the top of trending lists worldwide. The footage, grainy clips from smartphones, and leaked courtroom sketches spread like wildfire. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter became battlegrounds of outrage, theory, and dark humor. Some users demanded justice. This is witness intimidation, plain and simple. If the court doesn't act, it's protecting power, not the people. Others focused on the bigger picture. How many other witnesses stayed silent out of fear? How many stories have we never heard? Then came the wave of edits. Diddy's son was cast as the face of celebrity entitlement. Memes mocked the attack. Conspiracy threads linked the courtroom chaos to past scandals Diddy's name had been whispered in. For every defender, there were a dozen critics accusing Diddy's circle of trying to bury the truth by force. Even longtime fans turned. Influencers who once attended his parties publicly denounced him. Former collaborators unfollowed him. Podcasts dissected every second of the courtroom footage. Late-night hosts joked, but the undertone was serious. The message was clear. This wasn't just about one outburst. It was about everything the public was starting to believe had been hidden for too long. And the digital backlash, it wasn't fading. It was only getting louder. Just when it seemed the chaos couldn't get any worse, the court dropped a bombshell. Despite the violent outburst, despite the public backlash, and despite the rising tensions surrounding the case, the judge confirmed that the trial would continue, and with it, a fresh wave of evidence that had yet to see the light of day. Insiders revealed that upcoming sessions would include never-before-seen footage, internal communications, and a second round of key witnesses, some of whom had reportedly been afraid to testify until now. But after seeing the public rally behind the assaulted witness, they're stepping forward. And according to legal sources, what they have to share could make the original testimony look tame by comparison. There are whispers of private recordings, mentions of encrypted texts, a mysterious storage device submitted into evidence just days before the attack, and most alarming of all, rumors of a second witness list, containing names even more powerful and protected than the ones already revealed. This isn't over. It's barely begun. The court has made one thing clear: the truth is coming. And no amount of silence, violence, or influence can stop it now. So buckle up, because what happens next might be even more shocking than everything we've seen so far.